So, question one. The man, she ran to the book signing was telling her that feminists are essentially women that are unhappy because they can't find husbands. And, this totally influenced the way she came to view feminism and how other people perceived it in a negative way, especially in her Nigerian culture. He was telling her that she was corrupted by Western books and all this other stuff, and that it was not African. And so it kind of drove her to find what her personal meaning of feminism was. And she went through a few terms she talks about. She first called herself a happy feminist, and then she called herself a happy African feminist after someone told her it was in her culture. And then, she was like, I'm just going to wear my lip gloss and be a man-loving feminist. Question two. Her first experience learning about gender roles or inequality was when she wanted to be the class monitor in grade school. The teacher told them whoever got the highest score on the quiz would become the monitor. So she wanted to do that, so she got the highest score, and then they told her, the teacher said, well, I thought it was obvious that it could only be a man. And, she was really going berserk about that because the guy didn't have any desire to be the monitor, and she was full of desire, a ton of ambition to be one, and she couldn't, or she was told she couldn't just because she was a female. She never forgot about that. And one thing she taught about how she views gender inequality and everything, and just some insight she has is just not to make the mistake of thinking everything is as obvious to everyone else as it may be to her. So question three, she's angry about the gender biases because we have evolved so much as people, but yet it doesn't seem that our ideas about gender roles have evolved quite yet. A few ways she suggests that we change the situation is to raise our sons and daughters differently. And she, talks about how a lot we kind of suppress the male culture and their feelings, and we kind of have them mask their true selves. And that kind of, we want the men to be hard men, but it really leaves them with a weaker ego. And she also wants us to raise our children not to link masculinity with money. And instead of always the male being expected to pay for the dates, how about we make it whoever has the most money pays for the dinner, which I think is an awesome idea. And then they also think that she talks about how, I guess they must assume women have the cooking gene. She thinks they should just teach, the new generation of boys and girls to just cook for themselves, because who doesn't want to know how to nourish themselves? So question four, the premise of why women's success should be even considered a threat to a man. It goes kind of hand in hand with how masculinity is seen as like a strong thing. So men kind of, if a woman can do the same thing as you and is better than at it, then that is making you a masculine, which she talks a lot about how much she dislikes that word. Some anecdotes that she talks about of how gender affects a perception of a woman's life. She can't go into a lot of really nice bars and restaurants by herself. She also talks about how, she goes to a nice hotel by herself, she's perceived as a sex worker. Another example is one of her unmarried women that she knows who tends to wear wedding rings when she goes to conventions or conferences, so that she can earn respect, because she wouldn't earn that same respect if she didn't have the wedding ring on. And then one of the funny things is how she talked about how she knew a woman who hated to cook and do like all these homely duties, but she just pretended to because she felt like that was her gender role. And then, after being married for a while, she kind of stopped doing these things, and people were like, well, hey, what are you doing? So 5, how does appearance affect women and men differently? I think the main point of all this was summed up with when she said, men never have to worry about looking too masculine for their job, or just going into their job and people thinking or judging them based upon the way they look. But women definitely have to worry about looking too feminine or sexy even. I always like to apply this concept and, why I think we haven't had a female president yet. And that's because I think the woman is always going to get judged on how she dresses, how she talks, a lot about her physical appearance, etc. Whereas I've never even heard well, until recently, a man really be judged based upon any of his fashion or makeup. I mean, obviously, when it comes to his politics. Gender matters because it kind of rules how a lot of us are expected to go throughout life, even though it's not explicitly stated anywhere. It's just kind of the status quo, I guess I would say, of how people expect you to act. And I love the way she said that it's a form of oppression. And you know, men and women definitely experience the world differently. We're different humans. We have different body parts, different hormones, testosterone, etc. I took away a lot of kind of her anecdotes from the video, and I loved hearing about, you know, her experience as being a woman in Nigeria. I thought it was very interesting to hear about some of the ways she was perceived as a single woman, especially how she was perceived as a sex worker going into hotels by herself. I would 1,000,000% describe myself as being a feminist. It's something I've been calling myself for years. Always, I have a super feminist mother, and I took my first women's studies class in college. It rocked my world, and I will never be shy to say that I'm a feminist.